Welcome to episode 3 of Face to Face to Face webcast. We're still here.
And I see about a month and a half in, you're still wearing the same clothes. Does that mean you've completely given up on life?
No, it's like a uniform.
So they think I'm a new guy every week.
Well, you look different every week. You wear different clothes.
Yeah, but you know that people wear different clothes like every day.
Yeah. But the way that you know who people are is by what clothes they're wearing. If you go to the doctor and you walked in and somebody was like, take off your pants, and they weren't wearing a lab coat with their little name on it, would you take your pants off? The concept, very briefly, is that we want to get to know our Facebook friends on a deeper level than just what pictures and funny Minion quotes they've posted lately. And that's what this project is all about.
So we thought it might be interesting to go back to, the old days where you actually have a conversation with someone. And that's what we're going to do. But before we go into who we chose, keep that a secret for another minute. One of the reasons we took a little bit of an extended break is because Greg went through a little something. So I thought we'd chat about that.
So about a month ago, I woke up one morning and my ear was beeping at me incessantly.
Beep?
Beep. Yep, like
R2-D2.
Like boop.
Like a continuous high-pitched sound.
Yep, it booped.
Beep, booped.
Yeah.
Wait, it booped?
I'd say it's more of a beep than a boop.
Beep.
Yeah. It was especially frustrating that it would stop because you'd be like, good, it's done.
Right.
And then start again. Right?
And then again.
And so I went to the doctor, and I have some hearing loss in my left ear. At least be ringing in my ears all the time, which it just doesn't go away. It just stayed and stayed and stayed.
That would drive me mad.
Yeah, I was in the darkest place I've ever been, I think. Because after a few weeks, I was like, this is not going away. And then I started reading about it on the internet, which is the absolute last thing you want to do, right?
No, yeah. I did that when I got my concussion,
right.
Like a few years back. Things were freaking out with me, too. Yeah, I thought that I was going to die because of the internet.
Exactly. And after like 3 days of driving myself into the worst anxiety fit I've ever had, right? And so as I'm reading about these horror stories of people with tinnitus, guess what's happening? It's getting worse and worse and worse. Now it's both ears. And it's ringing all the time over everything that I can hear. Right.
And with the concussion, which is the only thing I can think of that relates close to this, so dizzy that I could barely move until 4 p.m., and then I would have about a 2-hour time gap where I'd be okay. And then around 6 is when the headaches would start. And it would be this constant tightness. But I will say what I think you're saying, the worst was the anxiety that came. Because the anxiety, I wasn't me. I was thinking things that I do not think. I wouldn't say I would go so far as to say it was suicidal. But I was starting to think I can't live like this. So that made it all worse. Way worse. Because of the anxiety.
I remember when you were going through this, and it was exactly the same for me. I just didn't even think I could do anything. I was I thought of everything that I might, and I thought, well, I'll never be able to do that because of the ringing in my ears. I'll probably die.
So how did how are things now, and how did you get past that to be able to at least do a face-to-face webcast and all that stuff?
It was 100% just faith. I started praying about it. I asked all my good buddies to pray about it. And almost immediately it got better. And
there was no magic pill you were taking at the time?
I didn't do anything else. It was 24 hours from where I was literally I woke Kate up because I was bashing my head against the bed. Because you're laying there.
That's the soft part.
Yeah, the soft part.
Good. At least you're being smart.
Just out of pure frustration, the single most prominent command in the Bible is "do not worry." God says, "Do not worry" in the Bible more than anything else. Right? What was causing me all the problems was worrying exactly like what you said. that I wasn't going to be able to have a job, that I wasn't going to be able to enjoy my life anymore, that I wasn't going to be able to watch my kids grow up, you know what I mean? Because I was going to be institutionalized. You know?
When things started to turn around for me, and it took a while, it came to a point where I did, which I think I've mentioned this before, I don't cry. It's just not, I'm not crying. I've cried 3 or 4 times in 20, 30, 25 years, something crazy, right? But at this point, I got to a point where I was bawling, screaming to God by myself in the house to help me, and that I had no chance on my own. And then after that, I got to a point where I understood something, which is, and it says somewhere in the Bible, it says, "Be thankful in all things." And usually you think about that, be thankful for things, but you're supposed to be thankful in these things that are not going well. Not be thankful for those things, but be thankful that God is sovereign. God is in control. There's this God that made this universe, at least that's what I believe. And if he can make the universe, if he did that, then surely he can help me with my head pains and my nausea. And if once I wrap my head around that, I could thank God that even though this moment's horrible, that he's somehow still in control. And once I got that was a big moment. So that helped a lot.
Totally. That's how it was for me. I think that's really interesting. I think that's worth meditating on.
Something we should look into. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So we're talking about a lot of serious junk that we don't usually talk about.
I know.
So wouldn't it be interesting if the person we talked to today was in a serious career that could actually help us with what we're talking about?
So you're talking about the entomologist that does the butterfly stuff?
You got it. So the person we are going to have a conversation with, old middle school pal, David Fine. Now what's interesting is now he's a pastor. Now, we all have done different things and gone different ways since middle school, but I believe he's the only one who became a pastor. So that'll be interesting to see. I've never really gotten to sit down with a pastor and just be frank with him. And I think I could talk to Dave because I know him as just Dave, the kid that was in our class who loved butterflies and sports, and that was him. I mean, I don't know, what's your memory? When you think of Dave back in middle school, what pops in your head?
Completely without a cynical bone in his body, and was never mean to anyone.
I don't remember one mean thing. He's a sweetheart, and he's also weird because he's obsessed with butterflies. So, without further ado, let's have a conversation with Pastor Dave. Is he this way?
Right, this way?
This way?
How does this work?
He's down there.
What's happening, guys?
David Fine. Well, Dave, I mean, the last time we talked was probably right after middle school.
Is that right?
I think. I don't know.
Wow. So a few things have happened since then.
And that's what we're going to investigate right now. The first question is, okay, so when I think of David Fine, there's one image that pops in your head. It's a guy with a net outside catching butterflies during recess or whenever. When I found you on Facebook, I friend you. On your profile, at least at the time, David Fine with butterflies. So that didn't change. So no. Here's my question. I don't even know if I ever asked you this back in the day, which is rude of me. What is it about butterflies that got you at such a young age and this obsession? How many do you have? How many butterflies do you have?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, including moths, I think I'm up to around 35,000.
35,000. Yeah. These are in your house, stored somewhere?
Yeah, my wife is an awesome woman
I guess
for allowing this to happen. Right. So to be quite honest, so my dad grew up in Africa, and he was a missionary kid. And growing up in the bush in Africa, they did all kinds of nature things. And one of his hobbies was collecting butterflies. And so when I was about 8 years old, he started showing me his African butterfly collection and spreading the wings and putting them in frames. And that was it. I was like, this is awesome. So he had like a story behind each and every single one of them. And so he brought me to Africa through his butterfly collection. So.
But what is it? I mean, I know this started from your dad, but I mean, what is it about butterflies? Why not crickets?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Crickets are cool too, but not to be older. You know, there are some people, some very squirrely people who spend their entire lives studying crickets. I've met some of them. But anyway, but no, butterflies for me, you know, so there's about 16,000 butterfly species in the world, about 50,000 moth species.
Wow.
And every time you look at a different one, the patterns are just incredible. You know, so Romans chapter 1 says that God has given creation knowledge of himself through his creation. So when I look at a butterfly, or I think when people, like when Sarah looks at marine mammals, as we saw in our last episode, there's something about creation that stimulates the heart, stimulates the mind, and it's different for everybody, a little bit different. But I think God reveals his glory through creation.
Did you know, you say that is different. I did a little research on butterflies, and I found out that of the top 20 fears of Americans, it's 18th. Butterflies. So that means right now, statistically, someone watching this freaking out. Because I'll be showing pictures right now, freaking them out.
I guess they kind of get in your way, you know.
Lepidopterophobia?
Okay.
That's crazy.
So now, here's my question. I think Matt's probably more this way, and I'm definitely this way, which is I consider myself to be kind of more of a Renaissance man. Like, I'm a mile wide and an inch deep.
You've lost a little weight. Don't fight mile wide. That's not nice to say. I love you.
Well, that hat is very slimming. Greg.
Vertical stripes, Greg.
Yeah, I know, I should have done.
Son of a gun.
So, you know, like, I've gotten into a lot of different stuff, and I'll get really into it for, like, a few years, and then, like, something else catches my fancy. You seem to have the kind of focus of certain great people. I've often been jealous of this. Like, is that something you've had to think about and work on, or is that just who you are? Yeah. You just can't help it?
Well, I truly believe that God gave this to me as a gift. I mean, it's that simple. I think that as far as the butterfly thing goes, it's something so unique that I believe that it's through this study of his creation that's really drawn me closer to relationship with him. And so it's been a really big connecting point between God and I.
Well, let me ask you this. You segued yourself really well. Another unique thing about you is, you know, all of us from middle school, from Trinity, we all went in different paths to different things. I believe you're the only one who took the path of becoming a pastor.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us that unique story? How did you go from the guy who wanted to do butterflies and now you've decided to become a pastor? Give us that story.
Sure. Okay. Well, I was full-blown biology major at FAU. I was the lab manager at Butterfly World, breeding butterflies for a living. There's a research project that I was doing with a little butterfly, this little tiny 1-inch butterfly down in the Keys. And there's some serious professional jealousy going on. And so here's what basically wound up happening. I had professionals in the world of entomology slandering me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this is really odd. I mean, for a creature that's got no significant, you know, monetary value at all, it's just this little insignificant little tiny butterfly that lives in one little island down in the Keys, and I got people like lying about me, making up stories, trying to get my credibility to be, you know, shamed. I found out how dishonest the field of science really is. So science I love, you know, actually doing real science, but the scientific community is it's a pretty harsh place, a very harsh place. And I just thought, you know what? Instead of going and being a slave to a university system, the idea of discipleship came into my mind. I started just pulling, you know, the people that I'm working with and discipling, hey, come with me to the hospital. This guy's got cancer. He's in hospice, whatever. We go sit at the bedside. We spend an hour with him, read some Bible verses, pray together, whatever. And I think that just that call, what was noticed, and that's why they asked me to kind of raise up to a pastoral level, because they saw that discipleship, you know, biblical discipleship model, something that's deep in my heart there.
So it was really more of like a heart movement than it was ever that you were like, you know what, it would be fun to be a pastor, you know. Like,
totally heart. Only 5% or maybe 10%, even of a teaching pastor's pulpit ministry is spent preparing for a sermon, delivering a sermon the rest of his time is you're dealing with busted, sick, broken sheep.
Mm-hmm.
People that got sickness, people that are losing their jobs, people that marriages are falling apart, death in the family, this and that. It's a constant thing where and in order to be an effective minister, you really have to empathize with that person, and doing that day after day, time after time after time, and putting yourself and connecting with them in their pain
Mm-hmm.
is not something that everybody can do.
No, definitely not.
And so, that's where like a lot of those people that are kind of looking at it for the glory aspect of, I'm up here on a pedestal and I'm over these people teaching them. That's just like a little tiny smidgen of what a pastor does. A true pastor. I had a guy who has 4-year-old twin 4-year-olds, and one of them died of a form of cancer. But as I'm dealing with mom and dad, it was I was a punching bag on God's behalf. He was just beating me up, like, how can you tell me? And I won't go into it, but that was one of those things where it's like, check, like, do I really want to continue doing this? Because this is really difficult to be going to those situations and kind of be a face, a flesh and bone thing, representation of God in this time where this guy's just lost his 4-year-old.
Do you think sometimes it's okay for a pastor to just say, like, I don't know the answer.
Absolutely.
I just, we're
Absolutely
not supposed to know that, maybe,
Like in that case, I told him that. So
Mm-hmm.
why did God allow your son to go through that? I can't answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be foolish to try to answer
Right.
that. And so I think a lot of guys will let their egos get in the way and say, I have to have an answer for every. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
No, you just got to be there and love people. My life verse is Proverbs 27:23. It says, be diligent to know the state of your flock and tend to your herds. So for those guys that are just, it's all about the teaching, like you think about a pastor, he's out in the fields with his sheep, and if he's going to be diligent to know the state of his flock, he's checking their fur, checking their legs, make sure they don't have any splinters. And if you don't smell like your sheep, you're not being a very good pastor.
Okay, but so here's what I thought. If we got a pastor here, we should play a game of ethics. So I got some would you rather cards.
Ah.
And we're going to play a little would you rather just for a little bit, and then we'll get back to a couple questions before we end the night. All right, the first question, and this is for all of us, Greg. You and me will answer this too, not just Dave. He's not the only one. Would you rather have a large 10-inch long belly button that swayed to music, or have accordions for legs?
Accordions?
You could have accordion legs. Your legs are like accordions. They might even make the sound when you walk. Or you have this weird, what is it? 10-inch long belly button. It's a belly button that just goes up about 10 inches and it sways to music. So whenever something's playing, you just get this musical belly button.
Yeah. Would the accordions help me dunk a basketball?
Maybe. Is that your pick?
I'd say accordion legs. Yeah.
I have to go with accordion legs all the way, and I'll tell you why. I got enough belly here as it is.
No. I'm picking belly button 10-inch thing, and I'll tell you why. Because you could probably tuck that in, and you can hide it. I mean, you're walking on the street with this. That's just drawing way too much attention. Next question: would you rather never be able to speak again, or always have to say exactly what's on your mind?
Ooh,
that's tricky.
A speedway to sanctification. You better purify your thought life
right.
if that was the case. So you're going to be sanctified in no time. I'd say honest speaking, I'd take that in a second.
All right, this one is rough. Would you rather? I'm assuming we're on the edge of a cliff with this one. Would you rather save your dog's life or your worst enemy? So both are about to fall off the cliff. You can grab one. The dog, your dog.
This is easy.
Worst enemy.
This is easy.
All right.
As a pastor, I have to lean on the Bible, so therefore I have to love my enemies and rescue the man. And Rover will forgive me. That's the beauty of a dog.
Well, not he'll be dead, but
I'm going dog all the way. I'm sorry. My worst enemy is a real jerk.
well, here's what I'm saying. I've had bad experience with dogs, and I don't like them. So I might actually, as I lean to catch the guy, do a little extra push. To
See, I have a 13-year-old dog that has been by my side every day for 13 years. Yeah, I'm just being honest here.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Be honest and look terrible.
All right.
All right,
Well,
next question.
next question.
Would you rather be a grotesque genius or a beautiful moron? So, not so smart.
Matt just wishes he could at least have 1 out of 2.
You'd think I would get some luck.
Oh, so
Grotesque genius. I would rather be a genius than a moron.
Yeah. Grotesque though. I mean,
grotesque though. This is
Can I go there?
You know, a lot of beautiful morons have a pretty sweet life. I'm
They
just
do.
gonna say that. And
ignorance
Yeah.
is bliss.
and genius doesn't really equate to there's a lot of geniuses who are kind of losers.
Yeah.
Not only that, but sometimes even though they're right, that the rest of the world around them is so stupid. They
Right. A lot of geniuses
say
are in their mom's basement playing World of Warcraft right now.
I'd say if I could go out in public and not cause people to hurl, I'd probably pick the grotesque genius. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with what I am, which is a beautiful moron.
That's true. I say it every time I get off with you. Yeah. Okay. Would you rather be a master of every musical instrument or fluent in every language?
Ooh.
They're both fun.
I'm gonna go language. I married a beautiful Salvadorian woman, and so in the process of getting to know her, I was studying like crazy Spanish, and so there was a good year where I was just playing dumb, man.
Yeah, that's right.
And I knew they were talking about me. I knew what they were saying. I'm like, gotcha.
Is that how you met her at the restaurant?
I
right?
met
You
my
got
wife.
cooking.
Her family, her uncles own La Bamba's Mexican restaurants.
Right.
Was it
So-
the food or was it the waitress that got you killed?
I can really say it was the food because I was going there for years before I met her.
Gotcha.
But I did see her long before I met her. Here's the story. So my boss at Butterfly World, when I was working there, he took me to La Bamba's, and so we're sitting at a booth in La Bamba, and we're talking about what's our type. So the one guy says he likes Claudia Schiffer, and he likes the German blonde thing. So he goes, "So Dave, what's your type?" And that's the first time I saw my wife walk by. I said, "Hey, see her right there?" I said, "That's my type." And they're like, "Come on, Dave, no, like we want somebody famous." No, I'm like, "You see her right there? That's my type." So
That's
I
awesome.
saw her, and they jokingly called her my wife for about 2 years.
No kidding. So it was like that long before you. Wow.
Yeah.
So you really did have a little flame smoldering
Yeah,
there.
she's hot, man.
All right.
So that ends the game of Would You Rather.
Yay!
All right, so I got another question to get back on to getting to know Dave, and that is pastors are just treated differently. I mean, I know when I'm with a pastor, I get all perfect, and I think most people do this. When you're with a pastor, you're kind of showing your best self, kind of like that first date self with the pastor. But I've never been able to talk to a pastor and ask them, "Do you feel that?" You must, because you must know, because you must remember how you probably.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to honor your pastor. So,
Yeah.
but at the
I
same
mean-
time, to think that they might be being a little fake or a little
Hide the beard
not.
of the pastors here.
Yeah, well, I think there's a good number of people that I know there was a noticeable difference in how they treated me,
I would
you
think.
know.
Yeah.
and it's just real. It's people's humanity,
How
and
does that feel
you're
from
just
your
like,
side?
I got your number.
Right. Okay, now let me flip the question.
Yeah.
And so from your side, I mean, it even says, not only does it say it in Spider-Man, but it does actually say this in the Bible. But that idea that if God gives you much responsibility, He expects more of you. Do you feel that responsibility to be perfect? Do you feel that ever like this thing where, I mean, you can't make a mistake. You can't show that you're.
I'll tell you what. You know what? Satan is called the father of lies. So I think the enemy. When I talk the enemy, I'm talking Bible Christianese. Sorry for any non-Christians listening.
First Peter.
There's a pride. Pride is in every man, and would love to get a hold of a pastor and kind of destroy the representation of Jesus here on this earth through destroying this man and his reputation. So if there's a miniskirt that walks by, if I'm prideful to think, oh, that couldn't happen to me, you know, the Bible says I'm in trouble. If I'm in the place in my mind where I'm like I'm above falling, then I'm in trouble. So no, we're all sinful. We're all sinners, and we all have fallen short of the glory of God.
I meant to say this before, just to the audience and to you, Dave, because you probably don't know much about our backgrounds, and so the audience knows. Greg and I are also Christians. Greg is a recovering atheist anarchist. This is a fact.
It is a fact.
And I've been studying the Bible and apologetics and things for since forever.
I'm an apologetics nerd, man.
So. Matt and I argued about Christianity for about 5 years, maybe even more than that, consistently.
And Matt won? You let Matt win?
Yeah, I let Matt. Well, but you know.
All right, so I got one more inquisitive question for you, Dave. Last question. This is a softball. I'm just going to throw it right up there because you've got to have an answer. You just have to. You love butterflies. You're a pastor. You must have a beautiful butterfly analogy to Christianity. You just have to.
So glad you asked.
We knew we were.
Hit it before we leave. Hit it.
All right. A baby butterfly, if we ever think of what a baby butterfly look like, it's a caterpillar. They just eat and poop, and that's all they do. They don't move. They just sit there and they just eat and eat, and they eat 7 times their own body weight of food every day. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians that are like worms, and they just eat the word. They go to church and they do the whole Christianity thing, and they just eat and they get fat. They get spiritually very fat. But then hopefully there becomes
a time. About you, Greg, and the weight. We're talking about spiritual. Why do I do it?
Hopefully there comes a time in the Christian's life where they say, you know what? I call myself a Christian. I talk Christianese, but my life doesn't really. I'm just a worm. There's no glory here, and so I actually want to be salt and light and actually affect people's lives and actually start to go out and love people the way Jesus loved people. I want to be something that has some glory, not just some ugly worm that just eats and gets fat. And I want to do something. So there's a change that takes place. I don't know if you noticed, but inside the butterfly chrysalis, the caterpillar literally, the cells actually liquefy.
Really?
And all the organs dissolve. All the heart dissolves, the breathing apparatus, the muscles, the digestive system, the whole thing, cellular level dissolves. And all that genetic material reforms and repackages itself into a completely new body plan in 12 days.
Wow.
And then when there's like that change inside of somebody, and here's the thing, like the blue morpho butterfly, it's got this iridescent blue color, right? And it's just fantastic, this coloration. But the butterfly itself is drab and colorless. But it's the light that comes and hits and refracts. And now we got this incredibly iridescent blue creature. So, when I choose to reflect his goodness and his glory, such as the iridescent blue morpho butterfly, it's when people are like, wow, man, there's something special about that. And I hope that if there's anything special about David, it's probably because of my wife or Jesus in my life. And, but no, honestly,
that's very true too. I mean, this was a great conversation. It was super interesting.
Well, it's been awesome seeing you again. Just seeing you, Dave, has been cool. But talking to you has also been awesome. And thank you for hanging out with us.
I'm really honored that you guys asked me, and I appreciate the love, man.
Yeah, we just wanted to hear from you again. It looked like you were doing some cool things, and you are. So next month, perhaps, we're going to talk with someone else on Face to Face. We don't even know who, but we'll find out. So join us next time. Until then, Greg may or may not shower and change that outfit. We don't know. We'll find out.
It's winter.
But you can shower.